and welcome to Women in Retail Talks. I'm Marie Albajes, the Senior Editor of Women in Retail Leadership Circle. Today, I'm joined by Melanie Travis, the CEO and founder of Andie, a global e-commerce swimwear and intimates brand for women. In this episode, we discuss why a good-fitting swimsuit is so essential to Andie, Andie's campaign collaborations with these strong, iconic women, and why inclusivity is at the core of the brand. Melanie, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
So let's start with if you could tell me a little bit about your background and what inspired you to launch Andie.
Sure. So I'm a native New Yorker. I grew up in New York City, and and I built my career in New York as well. I started my career in the sort of consumer internet space at a company called Foursquare back in the early days when people were checking in to be mayor of their favorite coffee shop. And then I moved to Kickstarter, a crowdfunding platform. And Kickstarter really sort of gave me the bug to be a creator. I didn't know of what yet, but just being in that environment, I found really inspiring. And then after Kickstarter, I went to a company called Bark, which is best known for BarkBox, a dog-obsessed company. I am a dog-obsessed person. It was a match made in heaven. And Bark actually just went public earlier this year. So that was a wild ride and loved my time at Bark. But in the summer of 2016, I was going on a work retreat with my colleagues to a lake in upstate New York. And I wondered to myself, what kind of swimsuit do you wear with your CEO and with your colleagues? And so I searched high and low for a swimsuit. And it was really on that search where I realized, God, this sucks. Like, shopping for a swimsuit is miserable. The in-store experience, having to try it on, it's truly awful in a tiny dressing room. Online, I didn't know where to go. There'd be this sort of endless scroll and products that were, overpriced or cheap and frilly. And I really struggled to understand why there wasn't like a go-to brand that just sort of like got it. And when I was on the retreat, I spoke with a lot of my, female colleagues and friends and family members, and realized I was really hearing that same sort of resonant chorus of voices saying, yeah, swimsuit shopping is like the worst shopping experience. And as someone who's sort of worked in tech my whole career, when you start to feel like there's a demand for something, you kind of get the urge to do something about it. So I really got the inspiration for Andie when I was at Bark. Obviously, it took quite a while to actually bring it to life from there, but that was the first inspiration for it.
Yeah. That's great. I think we've all been there, right? We've all been in that situation where it's like, I have to go to the beach with my in-laws. Like, what do I wear?
Oh, exactly.
And there's always been like this culture of shame around female bodies. I know when I put on a swimsuit, I'm definitely feeling self-conscious, and you feel like you can never win, and you're worried about all these kinds of things. And it sounds like you have identified this as a problem when you went to start your company. So can you go into a little bit more detail about how Andie is trying to address that culture of like shame around female bodies?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think an early insight I had that has really informed the way that we've approached the product, the brand, the user experience on our site, is that when a woman is wearing a swimsuit, it is the most naked she will ever be in public. Obviously, there's things like lingerie and stuff like that, but that is typically worn behind closed doors. And so realizing that, I was like, well, this is why swimwear shopping is fraught with all these sort of psychological tensions that you don't necessarily have in other categories. And then further, this is why a brand, like, to be successful in this category, to be truly successful over the long term, you have to build a brand that understands that gets that, and that works to solve that. And so that's been sort of like our mantra from the beginning, and has informed everything from the type of product, the way that we develop the garments, and we can get into that later if you want. But typically clothing companies take a size small and then use a computer to grade that up and down. And so if you're getting to an extreme end of the size spectrum, you're basically putting on a garment that has not been made for your body at all. It has completely warped in the dimensions. And so we do things from the product development to ensure a better fit. We do things on the site experience, like a smart, AI powered fit quiz. We invest in a pretty large, what we call a team of fit experts. They're sort of our customer support team. We call them fit experts. It's our biggest team at Andie. to the branding, to the way that we shoot women in our swimsuits, in sort of more, confident, happy ways. Not, if you Google bikini, you still get women, in like buttery sauce of some kind. I don't even know what that is, on like a rocky cliffside. And so we've just always approached it very differently.
Yeah, and I want to talk about your kind of recent campaign collaborations as well, but I want to talk about the inclusivity and the sizes that you offer, especially now with Old Navy recently announcing that they are doing away with their plus size section, and they're just going to have sizes 0 through 30, everywhere in store and online. So especially with the pandemic, people were probably running to your website. Talk a little bit more about your fit quiz and the fit experts and how that was received by customers.
Yeah, and I saw that news about Old Navy, and I think there was news also today about Aerie and their new brand ambassadors. So there's definitely a lot going on in the space that's pretty interesting. And overall, I think really great. This is all moving in the right direction. So in terms of our fit experts and the fit quiz, another sort of key insight about swim is that fit matters. Maybe that seems obvious, but a swimsuit has to fit well. Like, unlike well, I know you can't see me right now if you're listening, but like, I'm wearing a sort of loose button-up shirt. I don't know if it's the right size. Maybe it's a little small, maybe it's a little big. It doesn't really matter, right? And I think that's fine for t-shirts and stuff like that. But when it comes to a swimsuit, there's nothing worse than a too tight suit or one that's baggy. And so fit is just a key attribute to a good swimsuit. And ultimately, by the way, I do think that extends to like the thing that makes a swimsuit like the best possible swimsuit is just one that fits well, that you feel good in, everything else aside. So fit is just the most important thing when it comes to a swimsuit, not color, not fabric, not anything else. And so we're really obsessive about fit. And I think it's one of the things that we do best. Everything from, we touched on the grading process that we do. We use multiple fit models across basically every other size on the spectrum, so that we're not just grading up from a size small. And then the fit quiz, as I mentioned, is a smart powered fit quiz that has input from, at this point, there are millions and millions of data points in there, and not just like quantitative, height, size, whatever. It's really like, what do you enjoy doing when you're in a swimsuit, and what are parts of your body that you like to show off? And every time our team of fit experts interacts with a customer, she'll sort of input more into that fit quiz to continually make it smarter. And that there's also a business reason for that. When women take the fit quiz, they're more likely to convert to purchase. So that's, a sort of smart thing to have. But in addition to that, it enables us to scale our fit expert team pretty much to infinity without actually hiring, a million people to do it. So we learn a lot about what they like, what they don't like, and then that helps inform the product. It's this cycle that then helps to inform future products that we put out, and all of that really does sort of feed back into our sort of key tenet of inclusivity. We from the beginning, we've been an inclusive brand, going from size extra small to size triple XL. We did a partnership with Dia & Co earlier this year, where we made an exclusive collection with them that was available up to size 5XL. We've obviously never had a plus section. We don't refer to it as plus. The suits are the same. We don't separate them. We just make great fitting swimsuits that go from extra small to, in many cases, 5XL. And we've been doing that from the beginning. And then obviously we shoot them on women like us. We don't go find. I think inclusivity goes in both directions, right? I think that's important to point out, but we really make sure that we're representing the whole spectrum of women.
I read a while back, I don't know if this is still the case, but that you had an all-female team. And if that's still the case, even if it's not, I'm wondering how that has helped when it comes to decisions around inclusivity, like working with an all-female team, and how does that differ from your past experiences, either at Bark or at Kickstarter, if you had worked with mostly males in that space?
Yeah, definitely. At Kickstarter, Foursquare, and BarkBox, I was always working for men. I mean, which is fine. But this is my first time. First of all, obviously, everyone at Andie has a female CEO, and that's like still pretty unusual. And I hope that's something that they're pretty proud of. And then I'm really proud of the team. So we now have we've grown. We're about 25 employees, maybe pushing 30 actually, and we have one man. He's our accountant. Not to be cliche, but it's just the way it happened. But I think having a largely female team really does inform a lot of what we do and our approach to inclusivity. I mean, we have really robust conversations, which sometimes can get pretty heated internally about who we're putting on the product detail pages, what image comes first, what image comes second, who are the models that we're shooting for the next campaign. It's people feel, my team feels very passionately about making sure that we're inclusive and representative. And I think there's some really healthy arguments that happen internally. And I don't think that would happen if we were a team of men, like we are our customer, we are living that experience. And so we all have a perspective, and we want to see ourselves, whatever we look like, in advertisements.
Along those same lines, what challenges, if any, did you face when you were launching this? Particularly as a woman focused on a very specific issue that women face, buying that specific kind of product. I mean, it must have been hard to pitch to investors who are probably mostly men.
Yes, definitely. They don't understand. They don't understand the problem. They don't understand the category. It was very hard as a woman pitching a female-focused brand that only has garments for women. You're basically up against, a whole bunch of obstacles there. And the most common thing I got is, well, there's no problems with swim. It's easy. You just throw on a pair of trunks and run in the water. I was like, okay. I will acknowledge that this is a category that is quite different for men and for women, which is not necessarily true of all categories. But that you can't just disregard that this category is one that's much more challenging for women, and there are so many pain points. So that's one obstacle that I faced. Another is just disbelief in the face of real facts that it's a large category. The swimwear market is a $21 billion global industry. It's enormous. It's probably 5 times larger than the men's grooming category, for example. But in men's grooming, you have companies, great companies, by the way, like Harry's, that have raised, I think, over $100 million in I think a category that's maybe $3 to $4 billion. Swim is literally $21 billion. And I get a lot of like, oh, it's not big enough. There's not going to be enough, demand in swim. And I think when you don't live the experience, it can just be hard to wrap your mind around it. And so, yeah, I faced a lot of obstacles, but sort of never gave up. And so here we are.
Any advice for women who are kind of pursuing similar passions for getting over those challenges?
The best advice that I have is you just have to keep trying. And, I probably pitched 200 to 300 investors of all kinds, stripes, sizes, funds, individuals, private equity, small venture, et cetera. And, now Andie has raised $8.5 million in the last couple of years. And so, which is to say, like, I succeeded, but you really just have to keep trying, because someone out there is going to get excited about what you're building. And they're going to want to, own a piece of it in order to have, a payday. I mean, obviously, I think another thing to keep in mind is if you do raise capital, it's because you're agreeing that there will be some kind of exit. And so that's something to think about. But my advice is just don't give up. The only thing that separates a successful company from one that is not successful is that, the founder didn't give up.
Yeah. And now you've had these amazing campaign collaborations with Demi Moore and her daughters, as well as Clara Holt. Can you talk about, what it was like to work with these women? Why did you pick them to collaborate with?
Yeah. Oh, it was amazing working with them. This has been, they say in entrepreneurship, there are a lot of highs and lows. And I will say as an entrepreneur that this summer, the summer of 2021 has had some of the highest highs that I've ever experienced in working with these people. Obviously also the lowest lows. Things can, if they're high, they will be low, but also vice versa. No, but seriously, working with Claire and Demi and Demi's daughters, it was just magical. So we chose to work with Claire Holt. She's an Australian American actor and quite sort of large fan base on Instagram. I think she has over 7 million followers. And so we chose to work with her. She's a young mom. She has 2 kids. She's really like hip. She gets it. She has a sort of she's a really engaged audience. And Australia, we are also in Australia. Andie is basically in the United States and Australia. And so we felt that she would fit our presence in both places. And she has a great design eye. I mean, we love the way that she dresses and thinks about clothing and fashion. And we had a whole bunch of calls with her early on, just to make sure that it was a good and sort of authentic brand fit. We loved the numbers she has on Instagram. Obviously, we wanted to tap into that market. But it was more than just that. It was really about, would this be a good sort of brand fit, culture fit, feel authentic? And in turn, she also shared that she has been wanting to do a swim line for a long time, but hadn't found the right brand to bring that to life with. And so it's sort of a perfect partnership. So we launched the Andie x Claire collection in June, and it was really successful. Most of it sold out in about 2 weeks. And so we were really, really happy with that. It worked really well. And then on the heels of that, we launched a big sort of multinational campaign with Demi Moore and her daughters the campaign was called Together. And it's the first time that Demi and her daughters ever sort of were in a campaign together. And we wanted to do them together because Andie is also the sort of quintessential cross-generational brand. It's one that mothers and daughters and grandmothers, can wear together, and our suits are versatile and well-fitting enough that I think they look really great no matter who you are, what age you are. And mothers and daughters are such a sort of thing for us. And so, so that's why we chose to do that. And I mean, working with Demi Moore, I don't know, I don't know what else to say, except that the whole time when we did the photo shoot in the Hamptons, I was pretty much walking on a cloud the whole day. I could not believe that she was posing in my swimsuits, with her kids, and that somehow this had come to life. It still feels surreal.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that. So what's next for Andie? What are you most looking forward to in the next year?
I think what I'm most excited about is what I learned in this. So we grew a ton this year through through collaborations with Claire and Demi, but also through just launching more styles. What I've realized is that we have just barely scratched the surface. And I think what we're doing is really resonating. And there's a whole big world out there for us to go conquer. So, when I think about the future, I think about category growth. We're doing a lot in swim, but we've developed such an expertise in fit. So where and how can we apply that to other categories? I think about international, our Australia business works really well. Andie should be a global brand. I think about distribution. I mean, like omni-channel. Right now, you can only buy Andie on andieswim.com. And there are plenty of women who don't shop online so as you grow, I think you need to be where your customer is. So I have my hands in a lot of places right now, and I'm just incredibly excited.
That's great. Well, Melanie, it was such a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode of Women in Retail Talks.
Thank you for having me. This was great.
Thanks for listening. For more information on this podcast, please check out our podcast channel page at womeninretail.com/podcasts for show notes. Women in Retail Talks is available on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, and Spotify. Make sure to subscribe to our podcast channel as well. If you've enjoyed this episode, please take a few moments to rate and review this podcast. Thanks, and until next time, this has been Women in Retail Talks.